Hello again, I'm Joseph Johnson and this is NTA International News. Thanks for joining us. Let's take a look at the headlines. Nigeria seeks formal power sector intervention fund. Central Bank of Nigeria insists Nigeria will not be part of it as Minister of Communications put on hold USSD service charge by GSM service provider. Information and Culture Minister says no amount of attack sponsored by or otherwise will stop the implementation of the approved presidential recommendations to inject sanity into the nation's broadcast industry. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has assured that no amount of attacks, sponsored or otherwise, will stop the implementation of the approved presidential recommendations to inject sanity into the nation's broadcast industry. The minister made this assurance in Lagos at an interactive session with members of online publishers. Anthony Forson reports.
As I speak, plans are ongoing to launch more coordinated attacks with a view to truncating the implementation of the approved recommendations. Let me be straight. No amount of attacks, sponsored or otherwise, will stop the implementation of the approved recommendations.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed explaining the reason behind the federal government's desire to inject sanity into the nation's broadcast space. The minister said since the inauguration of the government committee saddled with the responsibility of implementing the presidential recommendation, which will ensure the independence of the National Broadcasting Commission, review the Commission's code to reflect the upward review of sanctions against broadcast outfits that breach the code, maintain that it is the interest of the corporate existence of the country.
Only non-patriots and anarchists will kick against measures aimed at putting an end to fake news and hate speech, especially in our broadcast industry. Only those who are guilty should be afraid of the efforts to sanitize the broadcast industry. Responsible broadcasters have nothing to fear. This is not a move to stifle free speech or gag anyone, but purveyors of fake news and hate speech should not expect to sleep easy.
On the need to dismantle monopoly in the industry, Lai Mohammed said it is to create a level playing field for creativity. He enjoined members of the Online Publishers League to remain in vanguard of efforts to tackle fake news and hate speech. In Lagos, Anthony Forson.
The federal government has taken delivery of additional 20 coaches for the Abuja-Kaduna train service and Lagos-Ibadan train line. Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi, who disclosed this to journalists at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, on his arrival from China, said the 20 coaches and 2 locomotives will arrive the country in the next 6 weeks. In its determination to make rail transport a viable means of revenue generation, federal government recently signed an agreement with China Railway Corporation to construct a 3.9 billion naira Abuja, Baru, Itakpe and Warrior Rail Line. Nigeria has sought formal power sector intervention fund from the World Bank to run in 4 tranches. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, at the closing briefing of the annual meetings, say headways have been made in reviving the drying chart as a panacea for addressing climate change-propelled conflicts. Leah Katun Babatunde has reports.
The Nigerian delegation came for this annual meeting with a wish list, and right on top of it is the facility to rejuvenate the power sector. This is a crucial moment for the nation as it agrees to enter the continental trade space. However, critical infrastructure is vital in enjoying a level playing field with an ever-growing demand for jobs, and that is exactly what the Nigerian government is raising resources for as global trade surge.
And if we're able to expand the amount to 4 billion, the additional 1 billion is for the distribution network. So it will help us to exit the subsidy that is now inherent in the power sector. It's supposed to be to reform the sector, to restore the distribution business side of the sector, especially on a stronger footing, so that they are freed up enough to be able to go out and raise financing to invest in expanding the distribution networks.
Climate change is also a factor here. Reviving the lake child will be taking in $170 million.
We participated in the meeting with our 4 neighboring countries. This meeting was convened by the World Bank Regional Vice President for Africa to find ways of reducing fragility through a new World Bank regional intervention. At the end of the meeting, we were able to conclude that Nigeria needed to be included in phase 1 of the project, along with 3 other countries. And we started discussing possible projects that could be rolled out under this regional support.
And as the team reports for Nigeria, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, the government is willing to be much more transparent following the applause it got here on the nation's debt profile and disclosure. She also affirms the government is capable of weighing up vulnerabilities and returning the economy to the desired growth trajectory. From the World Bank headquarters in Washington, D.C., Leah Katungbaba Tunde, NTA News.
So staying with the IMF World Bank meeting, we are not part of it and we will oppose it till they revert back to status quo. Now, those were words of the Governor Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Pele, in his reaction to the charges imposed by Telecom company in Nigeria on USD transactions in bank. Journalists, outcome of the IMF World
Bank, as well as the leading banks in Nigeria, are sent not actually 4 naira. Yes, 1 naira per minute, and they refuse. 500 to 4,500, 300.
Are impressed, emphasized the need for activities projected to go down for these as a result of level. External borrowings from low-income countries should be discouraged.
The meeting cautioned that pick up in the emerging market areas and the Eurozone areas indeed could be elusive and further compound the growth problem in 2020.
Godwin Mele further noted that the border closure will help grow local industries and ensure mutual respect among neighboring countries in the region, and further engender job creation along value chains in Nigeria, and therefore advocated the need for stringent measures to be put in place to ensure full compliance by importers to regulations. In Washington, D.C., I'm Chimobi Walter Naji.
Meanwhile, back home, the attention of the Federal Ministry of Communications has been drawn to a viral message allegedly sent by a mobile network service provider in Nigeria and other mobile operators, notifying subscribers of a 4 naira charge for 20 banking services with effect 21st of October 2019. A statement by spokesperson to the Minister of Communications, Mrs. Uwa Suleiman, says the Minister of Communications, Dr. Isa Ali Ibrahim Pantami, is unaware of the development and has accordingly directed the Nigerian Communications Commission to ensure that the operators suspends the plan until the ministry is fully briefed. In other news, the management of the Kanu Zoological Garden says the lion that escaped has been captured and returned to its cage. Seidu Galebe, head of the Zoological Garden, said the lion was shot with an injection which made the lion powerless before it and was captured and returned to its cage. Security matters. Troops of one division have rescued 4 kidnapped students from bandits at Gurumi village in Chikung local government area of Kaduna State. A statement by the Nigerian Army Operations Media Coordinator Colonel Aminu Ilyasu also indicates that 7 Boko Haram members trying to escape troops onslaught were killed when their vehicle stepped on an improvised explosive device (IED) in Lamba Forest in Borno State. The improvised explosive device was laid by the terrorists. Similarly, troops in Rivers State raided a suspected pirate camp at Ting Gibidi Ogu Bolo local government area and recovered 1 AK-47 rifle and 3 para-red rockets. And proprietor of the Legal Rehabilitation Center, Regasa, in Kaduna State, Dr. Lawal Yusuf Uduru, has been arrested by the State Police Command. These followed complaints of alleged maltreatment by some of the inmates when the Kaduna State Governor, Malam Nasiru Ahmad El-Rufai, visited the center. The governor discovered that about 147 inmates, both male and female, were still in chains in the center. He therefore directed that all the inmates be evacuated to the Hajj camp located in Kaduna for proper profiling and safe custody. The National Human Rights Commission expresses serious concern over the proliferation of illegal detention centers in the country. The Commission says such centers must be closed to save victims from torture, inhuman and degrading treatments. A statement by Director of Corporate Affairs and External Linkages of the Commission, Lambert Opera, says the Executive Secretary of the Commission, Tony Uju, stated this in Abuja on the heels of illegal detention centers uncovered recently in some parts of the country. He regretted that such centers, by their inhuman activities, expanded the frontiers of human violations in the country. Nigeria, he said, has in the last few weeks been inundated with reports of brazen abductions, particularly involving minors and youths who are unjustifiably subjected to all forms of inhuman and degrading treatment by the abductors. The Executive Secretary says acts of torture and inhuman and degrading treatment under whatever guise are clearly illegal, constitute human rights violations under the 1999 Constitution as amended, as well as the Convention Against Torture and other international treaties to which Nigeria is a signatory. Furthermore, the Anti-Torture Act of 2017, signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari, outlaws and abhors acts of torture, inhuman and degrading treatment and makes them punishable. The Commission reiterates that reported 300 inmates covered by the Nigerian police in Daura, Katsina State, in Kano and the torture centers uncovered in Kaduna are incidents among other similar cases across the country that constitute grave human rights violations which must be thoroughly investigated and culprits brought to book. The Executive Secretary has swiftly directed the Commission state coordinators in the Northwest to carry out in-depth investigation into alleged illegal detention centers, including the case of the abducted children in Kano, in line with the Commission's mandate. The Executive Secretary called on the Nigerian Police, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps and other relevant law enforcement agencies operating at the federal and state government levels to be vigilant and fish out perpetrators of the heinous crime and ensure that they are prosecuted in accordance with the law. The federal government has pledged full support for the successful hosting of the 2019 All Africa Music Awards as the country prepares to host the event in Lagos in November with the theme Feel Africa. Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed made this pledge in a statement signed by his special assistant Segun Adeyemi. The minister said the All Africa Music Awards is one of the biggest awards for the industry in Africa, and what government has done in the past is to provide enabling environment for the awards to take place through support services and giving it the backing needed. The minister said the federal government will partner with Afrima, give them maximum support in media to critical stakeholders. AFRIMA, which was first held in 2014, was established in collaboration with the African Union to reward and celebrate musical talents and creativity in Africa, promote African cultural heritage. Let's take some messages now. Do stay with us.
Today or 4 days when my girls won't come visit, I need to come go expire.
Oh, my guys, they can't follow me with this match. I'm also for the hand.
Babe, what's happening now? I'm sorry to disappoint you, but my subscription don't expire.
The match is not on my GoTV package.
Now your holla be that. I beg me of. Look, I show you how you go take do for my GoTV app for your phone.
Life is so much easier with my GoTV app. Make payments, clear error messages, change your package. You can also check your due dates and keep abreast of your payments. The new My GoTV app is everything you need in one place. So what are you waiting for? Download My GoTV app now from Google Play or App Store to enjoy the easy life. GoTV. Live it, love it.
Thanks for staying with us. President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, congratulates former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, on the occasion of his 85th birthday. A statement by his special advisor, media and publicity, Ola Owani, Senator Lawan praised for God's grace, health, longevity, and unblemished integrity that is evident in the exemplary life. He recalls Gowon's leadership of Nigeria as a youth and as at a time the country was at the precipice of disintegration. The Senate President recalls that it was a trying moment. He was able to rally troops and Nigerians to defend and preserve the unity and territorial integrity of the country. Senator Lawan said it is to his credit that Nigerians from across the divide embraced themselves after the conflict and again integrated as one nation. He notes that even after exiting power, General Gowon has been unwavering in promoting the unity, peace and prosperity of the country he loved so much. The Senate President said Nigerians will always appreciate General Gowon's legacy of patriotic and compassionate leadership, as well as the prayer program that he has institutionalized for the well-being of the nation. Now let's take you to the world in 6 days.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of World in 6 Days segment of the news. We told you that Sudan sent a delegation led by a senior member of Sudan's ruling Transitional Sovereign Council, Mohamed Dagolo, to the South Sudanese capital, Juba, for talks with rebel groups operating in Sudan. The talks between the transitional government and the Sudanese Revolutionary Front were aimed at convincing rebel groups that have been fighting the government army in the Blue Nile, South Kordofan and Darfur regions to join the Sudanese political process. Remember, we also told you about the ruling by Spain's Supreme Court that sentenced 9 Catalan separatist leaders to between 9 and 13 years in prison for sedition over their role in an independent referendum in 2017. 3 other defendants were found guilty of disobedience and were fined, but will not serve jail terms. Following the court's verdicts, Catalan independence supporters marched in Barcelona, displaying banners that read "Free political prisoners," while urging others to take to the streets. We also brought you a report on rescue operations by more than 110,000 people who took part in search and rescue after Typhoon Hagibis struck Japan last Saturday. The typhoon, described as the worst storm to hit the country in decades, left at least 40 dead with more than 16 persons missing. Still in the week under review, Uganda immunized more than 18 million children against measles and rubella, which represents 43% of the country's population. World Health Organization says Uganda has experienced measles outbreaks across numerous districts in the past 3 years. The 5-day mass immunization campaign funded by the government of Uganda, the World Health Organization and other donor agencies intends to tackle these public health challenges. We also gave you an update on Britain's plan to leave the EU as a Brexit deal was reached between the UK and EU before a meeting of European leaders. The two sides have been working on the legal text, but it will still need the approval of both the UK and the European Parliament. Don't forget, we told you that in Morocco, a journalist that was sentenced to a year in jail for premarital sex and having an abortion received pardon by King Mohammed VI. The Justice Ministry said the king's intervention in the high-profile case was an act of compassion and mercy. Journalist Hajar Rasoni, 28, made a victory sign as she left a prison on Wednesday together with her fiancé, who was also pardoned. Activists say her case is part of a crackdown on independent reporters. I am Adeola Brookslyn Sunday. Thanks for your time.
Report just reaching us says President Muhammadu Buhari will depart Abuja Monday to attend a 3-day Russia-Africa summit in Sochi, Russia, between October 23 and 25, 2019, with focus on exploring and expanding opportunities in security, trade and investment, science and technology, and gas production. The summit, President Buhari will meet with President Vladimir Putin of Russia to further strengthen relations in security, trade and investment, and building partnership that will enhance Nigeria's huge gas potential following Russia's remarkable success in gas exportation. The summit, which will be attended by African heads of state, will bring fresh perspectives on some global issues on challenges like nuclear technology, energy development, digital transformation, environment, technical security, mining and steel, education, agriculture, infrastructure, and development strategies. Well, let's bring you sports now. Manchester United and Liverpool ended 1-1 in an English Premier League match decided Sunday. For more on sports update, let's join Amanzi Marcus.